Good afternoon, everybody. My name is John Whitesides of Rocky Mountain Power. I will be hosting today's webinar. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. For everybody in attendance, please know that this session is being recorded, and we will post it to the Rocky Mountain Power website and our YouTube channel within the coming days. We have cameras and microphones muted to avoid distractions during the presentation, but we will have an opportunity for questions and answers after the presentation. Next slide, Heather. So go ahead and feel free to ask those questions throughout the chat presentation. Just put them in your chat. And like I said, we will address those at the end. Now for today, our presenter will be Austin Solers. Austin is the Director of Wildfire Mitigation for Rocky Mountain Power. And Austin, I'll turn it over to you.
Alrighty, thank you, Jonah. Hi, I'm Austin Solers, Director of Wildfire Mitigation Program Delivery. I've been with Rocky Mountain Power for about 12 years now in various roles, and I'm excited to share with you an overview of our wildfire mitigation program and those efforts for the state of Idaho. Thank you so much for joining and your interest in this program. As I'll be speaking at a high level today, I encourage you to read the full plan published online. I'll provide the website when we go over the wildfire mitigation plan development later. But first, let's review the agenda. So we'll start with the plan development and journey. We'll look at our wildfire mitigation approach, take a look at Idaho service area, go over the areas of heightened risk, look at situational awareness, operational practices, system strengthening, public safety partner engagement, communications and outreach, and lastly, what you can do. Okay, next slide, please. So why do we have a wildfire mitigation plan, you may ask? As we've seen in the West, wildfire risk is becoming more visible, and the loss of property and life have become a reality for some, as seen in recent news coverages. Wildfire has always been destructive, but in recent years, as communities butt up against the wildland-urban interface, they have become more destructive and dangerous. Rocky Mountain Power's Wildfire Mitigation Plan was created to identify the risk and implement risk mitigation strategies, as well as to comply with regulatory rules in the state of Idaho. Okay, next slide, please. So let's take a look at Rocky Mountain Power's plan development and journey we've been on. Rocky Mountain Power filed its first wildfire mitigation plan in 2020 for Utah. It can be found on PacifiCorp's website as seen on the slide. You'll see all the filed plans as well as the updated versions. As we move through 2020 and 2022, Rocky Mountain Power continued to implement best practices and expanded our wildfire mitigation programs to reduce risk. When we reached 2023, you see that we started to build a wildfire mitigation plan for Idaho. One important note about this year is at the end of 2023, Rocky Mountain Power addressed feedback from Utah's Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands and pulled back our 2023 through 2025 plan in Utah to update the fire high consequence area. After updating our risk model and expanded the fire high consequence area, Rocky Mountain Power's model did not identify a fire high consequence area for Idaho. The company still sees benefit in filing a plan in Idaho as the threat of wildfire changes every year. We will be ready to expand our current wildfire program in Idaho if our models identify new high-risk areas in the future. The current plan is acknowledged through 2026, and we will file another updated plan for 2027 through 2029. So check out our website in the coming years if you're interested in seeing the new plan. Okay, next slide, please. So before we dive into the details of wildfire mitigation, let's go over some general information for the state of Idaho. Just to give you an idea on the size of Rocky Mountain Power in Idaho's operating area, we provide power to about 90,000 customers through roughly 6,200 miles of distribution lines, 2,500 miles of transmission, and 28 substations. As you can see on the right-hand side of the slide, this is the extent of Idaho's territory in which Rocky Mountain Power operates. I'll give you just a second to take a look at that. Okay, next slide, please. Now let's move on to some of the mitigation approach elements for the slides we'll be covering. So what are some key elements of wildfire mitigation strategies? Key elements include situational awareness, operational work practices, and system strengthening. Let's start with situational awareness. This helps us identify where the risk is across the service area and equipment right-of-ways. Rocky Mountain Power does this in two primary ways, long-term and short-term risk modeling. I will cover these in a little more detail later. In the center of the slide, you'll see operational work practices. What are operational work practices? This is a method the company uses to be more surgical in ignition and wildfire prevention. Operational work practices can influence change all the way down to the individual level. More surgical operational work practices include hot work restrictions, so evaluating if work should be done during a planned interruption or not. Time of day restrictions, this is considering alternate work hours. Wind restrictions, deferring work if feasible to another at a particular work site. Driving restrictions, keeping vehicles on designated roads. And lastly, worksite preparation. This is worksite clearing, water trailer resources, and site wetting. More impactful forms of operational work practices are emergency de-energizations due to encroachment from active fires, public safety power shutoffs, and enhanced safety settings. I will cover these practices later. On the right-hand side, you see system strengthening. Installing covered conductor is part of our system strengthening efforts. Normal lines are installed with bare conductor, leaving them exposed. Objects such as tree branches may come into contact with the lines, or the lines may slap together from the wind and cause outages or ignition events. Installing covered conductor greatly reduces the risk of an ignition because a spark never takes place since it's covered in a protective sheath. In addition to covered conductor, Rocky Mountain Power may also choose to underground lines where feasible. While undergrounding can be more costly, it offers substantial risk reduction in the most vulnerable areas and is an effective wildfire mitigation strategy. We carefully assess where undergrounding makes the most sense based on terrain, cost, and fire risk. For transmission lines, neither undergrounding nor installing covered conductor are practical solutions. Instead, Rocky Mountain Power mitigates ignition potential on the most risk-prone lines by replacing wood poles with steel poles and reframes transmission structures to meet the wildfire safe standards. Then we have system protection and control. We will continue to replace and upgrade electromechanical relays with microprocessor relays throughout the fire high consequence area and on circuits interconnected with the fire high consequence area. Microprocessor relays provide multiple wildfire mitigation benefits. They are able to exercise program functions much faster than electromechanical relay. And above all, the faster the relay limits the length and magnitude of fault events, this will result in reduced ignition risk. Lastly, we have engagement. Rocky Mountain Power is always improving on ways we can engage with our customers, communities, safety partners, tribal nations, regulators, and industry in regards to wildfire safety. Okay, next slide, please. So let's talk about where Rocky Mountain Power targets the elements of wildfire mitigation from the previous slide. We model and identify areas of heightened risk, known as our fire high consequence area. You'll notice on the map that there is no fire high consequence area in Idaho. However, Rocky Mountain Power has identified areas of interest that still have elevated fire risk, but according to our models would not be as impactful as fires starting in a fire high consequence area. So if you look at the graphic, you'll see that the area of interest 1 is orange, and the area of interest 2 is yellow. The area of interest 1 is only about 4% of the service territory. Okay, I'll give you a second to take a look at that. Okay, next slide, please. Now let's look at some 2024 accomplishments. So as mentioned before, we filed our wildfire mitigation plan with the Idaho Public Service Commission, and the plan was acknowledged by the commission. We observed no Class 3 fires. So just for quick reference, without diving into too much detail, there are 4 classes of fires, Class 0, 1, 2, and 3. The different classes of fires represent how impactful and destructive they were, with Class 3 being the most impactful. We implemented a public safety power shutoff tool, which we will briefly go over later, and installed 10 weather stations for a total of 31. Okay, next slide, please. So let's move on to situational awareness and focus on meteorology. Situational awareness is a core part of Rocky Mountain Power's wildfire mitigation measures, and meteorology is at the center of our situational awareness. We have our very own team of meteorologists, and our approach to situational awareness includes the collection of data from either utility-owned weather stations or other available data sources to forecast and assess risk and inform real-time decision-making. We are planning to expand our weather station network to 38 stations in 2025 to supplement what's publicly available. We make our weather data we collect publicly available on our website, RockyMountainPowerWeather.com. So go check that out if that's of particular interest to you. Our meteorologists are capable of simulating fire spread as well in real time by using a program called FireSim. This allows meteorology to predict fire spread and simulate various conditions associated with current weather conditions. They generate a long-term view that helps identify areas of high fire risk and a short-term forecast that provide the field with targeted information relative to their operating area. The long-term risk modeling, or the baseline risk modeling, combines 30 years of historical weather and fire data with advanced simulations to highlight areas of concern. Baseline risk modeling helps us understand, should there be an ignition, that there are certain characteristics of a historical and geographic data which indicate it could have a significant impact on a given area. This view of risk modeling can inform where the areas of high fire consequence are and support program strategies. Strategies that we focus on are expedited inspections to find conditions that need immediate correction or where to do vegetation management more frequently, as well as where system strengthening efforts should occur. As mentioned, Rocky Mountain Power also utilizes a short-term risk modeling approach to complement that long-term view and is performed by the meteorology team to generate a daily risk forecast for the next 5 days. The shorter-term view is when you think of what the weather is like this week. Is it going to be hot, dry, and windy, and where? What are the conditions of the fuels? Do they have a lot of moisture or are they dry? So if you look at the graphic on the screen, you'll notice that there are orange and blue dots. The orange ones are the proposed facilities that we're going to be adding weather stations, and the blue dots are ones that we have already installed. So I'll give you just a second to take a look at that. Okay, next slide, please. Now let's look at situational awareness as part of our Wildfire Intelligence Center. So PacifiCorp is launching its Wildfire Intelligence Center for the 2025 fire season, aimed at enhancing wildfire response and safety for Pacific Power and Rocky Mountain Power. The WIC team, that's the Wildfire Intelligence Center, is composed of experts in hazard and emergency management and wildfire response, and will support all of PacifiCorp's territory as mentioned. The WIC will provide 24/7 monitoring of wildfire events and provide timely stakeholder notifications. Public safety measures will also be a focus while monitoring conditions for public safety power shutoff, which we will go over later. They leverage advanced technologies, including AI-driven cameras, monitoring and consolidated data analysis products. The WIC will analyze data across 6 states to deliver actionable intelligence to stakeholders. Additionally, the WIC will collaborate with system operations, grid, meteorology, and other business units to provide daily situational updates and localized event reporting. This initiative highlights PacifiCorp's commitment to safety, innovation, and operational excellence, playing a crucial role in protecting communities and infrastructures from wildfire risks. Okay, next we have the wildfire detection cameras. Thank you. Rocky Mountain Power has installed 5 advanced wildfire detection cameras that leverage AI to detect smoke and alert first responders. Some of these cameras were installed after the fire season last year, but Rocky Mountain Power is excited to leverage this technology for the 2025 fire season. For now, this technology is limited to Utah, but as the growing threat of wildfire changes in Rocky Mountain Power service territory, we will look into leveraging this technology throughout our whole risk area. Okay, next slide, please. So as mentioned before, more impactful forms of operational work practices are emergency de-energizations, including public safety power shutoffs, or PSPS. A PSPS event is a de-energization that occurs proactively before an ignition event can even cause a wildfire during periods of greatest wildfire risk. This can be sensitive for the public because the fire threat is essentially invisible. Rocky Mountain Power uses situational awareness to determine if specific thresholds are met before deciding to turn the power off. Conditions that we monitor include high wind speeds, low humidity, and critically dry fuels, and the potential impact a fire may have on a surrounding area. Proactive PSPS de-energizations are a last resort and have not happened in the state of Idaho. Okay, next slide, please. As you can see from the graphic on the screen, there is a defined protocol that we follow. The company first enters into a PSPS watch. Then we notify public safety partners, think emergency responders. Further into the watch, customers are notified. Then a warning is issued. De-energization occurs, of course, with notification. Power restoration occurs with notification. And lastly, the PSPS is concluded. During a PSPS event, you may see community resource centers activated. These centers are in place to provide, but not limited to, potable water, air conditioning, restroom facilities, refrigeration for medicine and or baby needs, communication, including internet, cellular access, and satellite phones, and on-site medical support where it's available. Okay, next slide, please. So we have three main types of de-energization practices. We've already discussed PSPS. Now let's dive into emergency de-energization. Rocky Mountain Power will de-energize when a fire comes too close to assets. Our situational awareness drives our de-energization strategy by looking at the fire fuel risk. The fire fuel risk is determined by our short-term forecast developed by our meteorology team, and the de-energizations are more likely to happen as the fire fuel risk rise. Rocky Mountain Power does not want to worsen the fire with additional ignition events. De-energizing power lines help keep first responders safe while conducting fire suppression, life-saving measures, and traffic control. Next, we have the enhanced safety settings. So what are enhanced safety settings? When fire risk conditions are elevated in an area, the company places electrical equipment on enhanced safety settings. These settings are used with devices that turn off power within fractions of a second. When a power line is hit by debris or contacted by wildlife or pushed by strong winds, these settings may cause equipment to lock out, essentially causing an outage. Our patrolmen will respond and inspect the line to remove any potential fault risk before re-energization occurs. Okay, next slide, please. We recognize that there will be reliability impacts due to outages related to enhanced safety settings and emergency de-energizations, but want to stress that it's because safety will always be our top priority. This graphic shows all of the outages due to emergency de-energizations and enhanced safety settings. So if you take a look at the screen, the graphic on the right-hand side, and I know it's small, I apologize for that, but the blue dots are the enhanced safety setting related outages, and then the red dots are the emergency de-energizations. There is a red dot. It's right there in the kind of the southeast corner right there by Georgetown, if you're looking for one of the red ones specifically. Idaho had 2 emergency de-energizations in 2024 and experienced about 238 outages related to enhanced safety settings. Okay, I'll give you just a second to take a look at that graphic. Okay, next slide, please. Now let's talk about customer notifications. We already touched on the notification process for a PSPS event. What about the other 2 types of outages that may occur? So Rocky Mountain Power is not able to provide advanced notification for enhanced safety settings because they are event-driven. This means that until something interferes with the power line, the power will remain on. We will notify customers via email or a letter when settings are enacted for the season. This will allow the customers to prepare for more frequent interruptions and address any concerns before the outage event takes place. For emergency de-energizations, we may be able to provide advance notification for pending de-energizations, meaning if Rocky Mountain Power is monitoring an event and there is enough time to notify, we will do so. For fast-moving fires with little notice for the company, we may not be able to provide advance warnings. Okay, next slide, please. So moving on to wildfire response. Our emergency management team also engages with our public safety partners and communities. Emergency management team will lead response and coordination during a wildfire event. To prepare for responses to wildfires, they work closely with public safety partners throughout the year in meetings, trainings, and exercises, which help the emergency management and safety partners understand how to coordinate during an emergency. To support public safety partners, Rocky Mountain Power has stood up a fire response team, and they are located across our service areas and will work with public safety partners if there is a wildfire to ensure that we are supporting the response appropriately. Okay, next slide, please. Our emergency management team stays engaged by continuing ongoing coordination. So that means our team of emergency managers are assigned certain regions of responsibility. This allows them to focus on smaller regions of Rocky Mountain Power's territory and develop relationships with other external emergency management teams. They also meet with county and city emergency managers and attend community safety forums when needed. Relative to training and exercises, they attend public safety partner events when it's requested, and they also provide training and exercises to internal team members here at Rocky Mountain Power. And they also work with the Wildfire Intelligence Team, as previously mentioned before. Lastly, we have the Public Safety Partner Portal. The Public Safety Partner Portal was implemented in 2024, and it increases situational awareness through maps, showing what circuits may be de-energized or affected by fire. Other emergency management teams can set preferences for notifications sent to them, and it will show all hazard events in a given area. Okay, next slide, please. All right, moving on to system resiliency. Let's start with equipment inspections. The company regularly inspects its assets for safety and ignition risk. We recently moved to an annual inspection interval for our overhead safety program. This is twice the inspection frequency that the company used to perform. These inspections will identify conditions on our lines that have potential safety impacts or risk of ignition. If the condition is severe enough, we will repair the condition immediately. We also conduct infrared inspections on transmission lines. These are typically done during high load times of the year when our lines are fully loaded. We can clearly see hot spots on the lines. These are potential failure points, and Rocky Mountain Power will correct the condition before it becomes an ignition risk. Okay, next slide, please. Next, we have vegetation management. So we also perform annual vegetation inspections within the fire high consequence area for tree encroachments that violate minimum clearance distances to our lines. Rocky Mountain Power also proactively performs pole clearing, where all vegetation is removed directly under the pole. So in the event an energy release occurs, there's nothing to ignite under the structure. As mentioned before, Idaho does not have a fire high consequence area, so proactive pole clearing is much less frequent. But to give you a scope of the work that is being done, Rocky Mountain Power as a whole cleared about 15,000 poles and pruned 2,200 miles of lines last year. Okay, next slide, please. Now let's cover system strengthening. Rocky Mountain Power targets assets and line miles within the fire high consequence area for strengthening efforts. As mentioned in the overview slide, strengthening involves covered conductor, undergrounding lines, transmission reframing, upgrading or installing assets such as reclosers, relays, and breakers, and expulsion fuse replacement. There are no planned circuit strengthening projects for Idaho at this time. However, the company will continue to monitor its risk model for Idaho and implement strengthening projects as necessary. You will notice that there are some dollars set aside that you will see in Idaho's Wildfire Mitigation Plan to replace or install protective devices such as relays, reclosers, and the breakers that I mentioned. Okay, next slide, please. Let's talk about communication and outreach. What are we doing for outreach? Rocky Mountain Power takes a multi-pronged approach throughout the year to ensure wildfire preparedness and educate our customers and communities. We also work to get key information out into the communities we serve. We begin that communication in April, and it continues through September. This includes information shared through social media, TV, radio campaigns, brochures for customers, and messages included with customer bills. We also host webinars like the one we're having today. And throughout the year, we maintain additional information on our website and also distribute flyers for customers. Okay, next slide, please. So let's discuss preparation. What can you do? So while Rocky Mountain Power is focused on what we can do to make sure our system is safe and resilient, there are also things that you can do to prepare for emergencies and reduce the impact of wildfire. Remember, there were over 1,400 fires in Idaho alone last year that burned about 900,000 acres, and according to the National Interagency Coordination Center. So we all have a role to play. So step one, update and verify your contact information with Rocky Mountain Power. You can do that by calling 888-221-7070 or update it on our webpage as seen on the screen. This is particularly important because we leverage this contact information when making a PSPS, enhanced safety settings, and emergency de-energization notifications to customers. Updating your info is the best way to stay informed. So step two, just as we're clearing plants and trees away from power lines, it's important for you to create a defensible space around your property. In all areas around your home, keep the landscape clean with trees and bushes trimmed and all dead vegetation cleared. Use and space out, fire-resistant plants further away from your home to prevent fires from spreading. Make sure trees are trimmed with at least 10 feet of clearance from buildings and other trees. You can also cover exterior vents with a metal mesh wire and keep gutters and decks cleared. Step 3, update your emergency plan. It's important to have a plan for any time of the year, not just wildfire season. But make sure to have 2 to 3 weeks of shelf supply food and water. Ensure you have a backup supply of essential medicines you and your family may need. Create an emergency kit with flashlights, batteries, solar phone chargers, first aid, numbers you may need, and of course, cash. Lastly, designate an emergency meeting location. Okay, next slide, please. So in closing, we also want you to know that we're here for you. Rocky Mountain Power can help mitigate the impact of wildfire on our customers. If you or someone in your household has a medical condition that could be aggravated by an outage, you may qualify for a medical certificate plan. Some of the eligible conditions are reliance on electrical power to meet mobility needs, medical conditions that require additional heating and cooling, conditions that require medication that need to be refrigerated, or conditions that require electrically powered medical equipment in the home. Rocky Mountain Power has also implemented a PSPS mitigation program for customers with medical needs to automatically receive additional notifications of PSPS events. To be eligible, customers must be enrolled in our medical program or self-identify as having medical needs. If you aren't enrolled in the medical certificate program, but you do have some medical needs, please go to the webpage you see on the screen to learn more about this notification process so you can be prepared for a public safety power shutoff. You can also reach out to our call center 24/7 and speak to a real person. That number is 888-221-7070. For Spanish-speaking customers, you may call 888-225-2611. We also have bill payment and financial assistance. Please visit the website you see on the screen to learn more about these programs, and thank you.
All right. Thank you, Austin.